This is my big whiff on the season. I thought this was going to work. Why? Because I watched Brady go to Tampa, an old Brady who everybody said was kind of shot, didn't really have it, lost at home to the Titans in the playoffs. Brady's kind of old, and I watched him win a Super Bowl. And then Matt Stafford, who could never win big games in Detroit, goes to the Rams, and all of a sudden the Rams win the Super Bowl. And Russell Wilson looks at it and thinks, I got a defensive coach, C-plus running backs, a bad offensive line, and 4 straight years, I got a passer rating over 100. Basically, I've done it with DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and a bad old line and an antiquated offense. That's the hard thing to figure out with Russell Wilson. His 4 previous years, he was the only quarterback in the entire league who for 4 straight years before this year had a passer rating over 100. Look at his numbers. He had a 4-to-1 touchdown to interception ratio with a bad old line. 66% completion percentage with a bad old line. Who's doing that in this league? Burrow's about it. So all of a sudden, this year it's 83.5. There's no injury, and he's 34 years old. Now people go, what about Peyton Manning in Denver? He was like 39 and on his 4th neck surgery. He just fell apart, and he was never really athletic anyway. It is really hard to explain. But here's the thing. I think Nathaniel Hackett's about 50% of the problem. I think the offensive line is about 25% of the problem. I got some young, immature receivers, could be 5% of the problem. I don't think it's all Russell, but I absolutely get Russell Wilson. It's sort of like the NBA. If you were a veteran and you looked at LeBron go to Miami, join stars and win, and Kevin Durant go to the Warriors, join stars and win, if you were an all-star, you'd think, well, I'm going to go to an all-star team and win championships because I think I'm as good as those guys. Like, I get the ego of a pro athlete. I thought it was a great move. I don't have an answer. It's easy to go on social media and say he's washed. He was not washed. The numbers show no indication. If you can get 100-some passer rating, 4-to-1 TD to interception ratio with a bad O-line, so bad they had to draft 2 tackles. With a mediocre running game, with a defensive coach that was mocked by people like Warren Sharp who follow football analytics. They used to make fun of Pete Carroll's offenses. He wasn't washed. I mean, it wasn't like Denver was the only team that wanted him. Denver was where he wanted to go. They had, he'd have an offensive coach. Stafford got an offensive coach. Brady got an offensive coach. He was going to get an offensive coach. Had young receivers. Had a left tackle. Had a defense. Like, I get it. But, it's one of those things where I know everybody, even the people that didn't think it was a great move, nobody thought it would be this bad. I don't know anybody who I respect who thought it would be this bad. Everybody said, boy, that's a lot to give up. Or, he's kind of, Greg Cosell used to always say, he's kind of hard to explain. He's got like planned ad libs. But he was one of the great deep ball throwers, can't hit it. He was one of the great fourth quarter quarterbacks, can't do it. It's just one of those things. There's no precedent for it. Don't tell me Peyton Manning in Denver. He was late 30s. He was on 4 neck surgeries. He was wobbling around at that point anyway. I'm watching Russell Wilson a year and a half ago. There's no injury. He's 34. I'm watching him a year and a half ago run all over the place. Is it ego? Is it coach? I think the coaching and the O-line are a huge part of it. And one of the reasons is, and I say this using college and pro, go look at Michigan the year before Jim Harbaugh, Brady Hoke. A year later, they win 10 games. And that's with young kids. Go look at Lincoln Riley, 4-8 to 11-2. I think sometimes we underestimate coaching. In college, coaching is way bigger than quarterback play. Coaches are the stars. In the NFL, quarterbacks are the stars, but go look at Kirk Cousins and the Vikings, Mike Zimmer to a rookie head coach who puts his arm around Kirk Cousins. It's a totally different offense, a totally different team. The one-possession losses are now all one-possession wins. And I think Hackett is just bad, like really, really bad. That's my explanation because I can't figure it out. Your explanation is what?
You said 50% Hackett, right?
At least.
I'll go 80% Hackett. I'm not putting this on Russ. He's been too good for too long to just say all of a sudden, he's a big problem, right? He's been good in first halves. The first half numbers are good on the script. But when they have to adjust, it feels like Hackett's not making any adjustments. And I don't know if Russ is afraid to call his own number and just say, guys, I'm doing this like Brady did against the Saints. But at some point, Russ has to go and just say, like, I'm not going to call what you're doing. But then you become Carson Wentz against Peterson in Philly. Remember how ugly that got?
Yeah.
So I can't put a lot of this on Russ.
Ask yourself this. Matt Ryan got the right coordinator, not a coach. Kyle Shanahan. He got the right coordinator. Matt Ryan was the MVP of this league. Not with a coach, just the right coordinator. So if you don't think coaching matters, just the right coordinator. Look at Tua with Mike McDaniel. And they got a left tackle.
Yeah.
So they just got a left tackle, a receiver, and a coach. Tua's loss Sunday was his first loss in like a year and a half of when he starts and finishes.
Just to go back at the beginning of the season, Colin, Vegas, everybody thought Denver was like a 10, 11, 12 win team.
That was their
and a playoff
over-under.
team. Yeah, everybody thought they were a playoff team. So now, next year, we keep saying this is not a good job, right? Because Russ's cap hit goes up. Do we need to rethink that? I mean, they have the league high players on IR and salary cap on IR. Assuming they come in healthy next year, why can't this be a 10, 11 win team? Their running back, Javonte Williams, was very good last year.
Well, let's be honest. Okay, I'll give you the reason. Sean Payton takes the Chargers job. So then it's Andy Reid, offensive genius. Sean Payton, offensive genius. Josh McDaniels, I'm sorry, but it's working.
Yeah. Well, for 3 games.
Okay.
So fine. So go out and find the next Sean McVay. How hard can that be? What was McVay before he took the Rams
How hard
job?
can it be to find somebody great in any industry? Really hard.
Well, I don't know if we can pull it, but I would love to see your reaction on air when the Rams announced they hired Sean McVay, who was like 32 years old.
No, I didn't know who he was.
Nobody did. So why can't the Broncos brain trust go out and find the next
but for
McVay?
every Sean McVay, I'll give you Ben McAdoo. I mean, there's 4 Ben McAdoos and Freddie Kitchens for every Sean McVay. How many great coaches in the NFL now? 6?
The guy who hired McAdoo, I think, is now flipping burgers.
Well, whatever.
Up the road. But
by the way, we thought Hackett worked with Aaron Rodgers. Staley. Go look at the last 10 hires. How many home runs are the last 10 NFL hires? We like Dable. Last 5 games, he's 1-3-1. And we like him.
Is this time to go get Andy Reid disciple and Eric Bieniemy? Is it time to bring him on?
I don't know.
He went to Colorado. He's obviously familiar. I don't want to say he's a familial son, but he did a lot of damage in that state of Colorado under Andy Reid. I don't know. Is he a guy? You got to find an offensive coordinator.
You got
no doubt about it.
Yeah, because the defense is filthy. Outside of the Niners, it's the best defense in the league. Personnel-wise, it is a fantastic defense.
That's
on the field constantly.
A homework assignment for this show. We need to find 5 guys that the Broncos must interview. You like Waldron, right, in Seattle?
Well, I think it's a name. I don't know if he could. I didn't ever knew Tom Coughlin was going to beat Belichick twice in the Super Bowl. I remember him at Boston College. He beat Notre Dame. Notre Dame was number 1. Boston College beat him. And you're like, oh, this guy's crusty old guy's pretty good. Then he goes to Jacksonville and makes them a playoff team. And you're like, oh, wow. Then he goes to the Giants. If you'd have told me, he beats Belichick and Brady twice in the Super Bowl, I'd say you're out of your mind. You never know if these guys are going to hit or not.
All right, how about do you kick the tires on a college coach? I'm just going to throw it out there because I think he's been very good the last 2 years. Chip Kelly, UCLA.
No, God, no. We've
Absolutely
done that.
not.
No,
okay.
No. I like
Guy knows
Chip.
football.
I like him. I know him.
Knows offense.
Come on, no.
Absolutely
you're funny.
not.
You're out here saying, you're so funny. You're like, how hard can it be to find Sean McVay? And your first choice is Chip Kelly.
That wasn't my first choice. He's like the 4th guy. I said Bieniemy earlier. I will come up with a name tomorrow. We can get our minds together and find a guy.
Yeah, I mean,
hey, how about this? Detroit Lions offense has been off the charts with Jared Goff, Amon-Ra St. Brown, a bunch of other dudes you don't know.
All right.
Ben Johnson is their offensive coordinator. I want to interview that guy.
I don't know much about him.
I don't either. Maybe he's the next McVay. Let's bring him in and interview him and say, Ben, what do you want? What do you want to do with Russ?
But by the way, that division, I got Andy Reid. I got Josh McDaniel. I don't care what anybody says. Mac Jones has regressed horribly since Josh McDaniel left.
Yeah.
So that guy can coach. He may have failed in Denver. So I got 2 studs. The Chargers lose this weekend. The Spanos family's making calls. Sean Payton and Harbaugh, that's the only job Sean Payton and Harbaugh would absolutely, unequivocally take a phone call on. Now I got Sean Payton twice a year. I got Andy Reid twice a year. I got Josh, and they all have quarterbacks.
So do you, right? You got Russell Wilson. Wait a minute. You're bailing on him?
I'm not bailing.
12 games.
I'm not
He hasn't
bailing.
been great.
I'm saying Herbert.
Yeah.
Mahomes.
Okay.
These guys are like in their prime. They're, big. Hey.
We need names, people. We need to help the Broncos because clearly they need help finding a head coach. Sorry, Hackett and his family, obviously.
Yes. We very deeply apologize for your awful coaching.
I did not put the for sale signs in your front yard this morning. That was not me.
Listen, they're coaches. They, I feel bad. I don't want anybody to get fired.
Yeah.
All right. Our